Hello, humans of Earth. This is your transmission for Wednesday, January 9th, 2019. And I like this setup. You know, it's basic, just going live on my phone here and pointing it at me and the screen, but it works. It doesn't have the production value, but substance is much more important these days, So eventually I might work on upping my production value and getting the bells and whistles, but for now, I ain't got time for that. We're just gonna roll with this. So in today's video, I might actually try to do these daily. Don't hold me to that, but morning check-ins live here. But in today's video, we're going to talk about the address. We're going to talk Rosenstein, Huber. Got some things I want to mention on GMOs, vaccines, 5G, all those things. And then we're going to talk Space Force, UFO disclosures, and a lot of the psyops I'm seeing come out in that arena. So to begin, first of all, shout out to a sponsor of this channel in Noble Gold Investments. They help you invest your money into precious metals like gold and silver. And gold has been skyrocketing lately. So the beginning of 2019 here might be a good idea to start upping your reserves. They also have these awesome commemorative silver coins. Neat way to start investing in precious metals. They have rare coins. They have Trump coin you can see here on the screen. Here's a, show the camera there. So Noble Gold, they got coins. They help you invest your money in precious metals. Go check them out. Once this video is done processing and rendering and all that jazz, I'll drop a link in the description down below. Now getting into news of the day. Let's talk Trump's address. So I'm sure many of you saw it last night. Trump's about 8-9 minute address from the Oval Office talking about the border crisis, what's going on the border, making his arguments for a border wall. Now, he did not call a national emergency, and a lot of people were expecting him to. Some people were surprised, but in looking at it, it's very tactical, it's very strategic in that he did not call for a national emergency to build the wall. Really, what this looked like, because we had, of course, Trump give his 8 or 9 minute speech, and then afterwards, the feeds instantly cut to Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi trying to give their rebuttal, basically. And they didn't look happy. In fact, they look shocked. They look kind of taken off guard that Trump did not call for a national emergency. So I think this is very strategic in that he did not call it. And that's because he's trying to really hang them out to dry. Just put the whole show on display. Make them look like complete fools. And get his arguments across. And of course, it would be a much easier process if there was compromise, if a national emergency did not have to be called. But, and I think he even mentioned it in a line or two during this speech, is that it's a possibility. And if he needs to, he will. But there you go. That was Trump's address. No national emergency called, but could happen soon. I think today there's a little more deliberating going on about the ending of the shutdown, funding of the wall, and all that stuff. But how about the memes? How about the memes that came out of this? Out of Schumer and Pelosi. Those were quality, right? God, just gross people, man. Gross people. Let's move on to talking about Rosenstein. So this news coming out this morning. Rosenstein to leave the Department of Justice in the coming weeks, sources say. Now, those sources are sources familiar with the matter, as we usually hear in the mainstream media. Apparently, these sources were claimed to be folks from the Justice Department, but I just read a headline on Twitter a few minutes ago that Sarah Sanders has not spoken to President Trump about this. So it's a claim out there. Don't know if it's confirmed quite yet, but I wouldn't doubt if it was true. I mean, makes total plausible sense that Rosenstein will be out in the coming weeks, and it says here Rosenstein wants to ensure, finger quotes, a smooth transition for incoming Attorney General nominee Bill Barr. So that's his reason for getting out, but we'll see. It looks like Rosenstein, and of course he was overseeing the Mueller investigation, is going to be on the outs very soon. As we heard in a Q drop on the 5th, 4 days ago, Q mentioned that Mueller's insurance policy is expired, past tense. So I'm sure that Mueller investigation is going to be ending soon, and I think this has everything to do also with this news coming out 2 days ago. It's coming out on Monday. Republicans have questions for John Huber, the U.S. attorney overseeing investigation of the FBI. So in a letter sent on Monday, Republican congressmen, it was namely here, I have the specific names, Jim Jordan, Mark Meadows, and then Collins. So Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan, of course, being a part of that Freedom Caucus, the Freedom Caucus of our government, but they put out a letter on Monday asking the Justice Department for an update on Huber's investigations. So a lot of dominoes have to fall in a very finely tuned way here. Mueller investigation ending, Rosenstein on the outs, more answers about Huber, of course, FISA declassification somewhere in there, and that's just going to snowball the rest. So I know we're all excited. We want Mueller's investigation done. We want all sorts of things to happen. We want a national emergency for the border wall if need be, or just the border wall in general. We want FISA declassed. We want so much to happen, but it's very, very complicated process. Of course, complicated process, but this is good news. News going around about John Huber and some Freedom Caucus congressmen asking about questions on that. Somebody else on the outs, speaking of Rosenstein, could be leaving his job soon. How about this? Broward County Sheriff's Officer Scott Israel tells staff he's being suspended over Parkland response. He is basically telling a lot of his top officials, top commanders, that he's going to be removed from office by Governor Ron DeSantis. Sources told the Miami Herald. Now, this is according to, again, sources, but also according to Scott Israel. So there's been no comment from Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida. He still has his job. Sheriff Israel still has it, but he is claiming that he's going to be on the outs very soon. And again, something else that I wouldn't doubt, and I think we're going to see very soon, is this corrupted guy, Scott Israel, with all his connections to Hillary Clinton, photos of him and Hillary Clinton and all kinds of weird stuff, and his total cover-up, his whitewash of the Parkland shooting incident down there. He's gone. He's gone very soon. How about this article from the Daily Beast? The far right is trying to co-opt the yellow vests. Computer slow to load here. Probably because I'm live right now. Let's end some of these tabs. The far right is trying to co-opt the yellow vest movement. And of course, this is from the Daily Beast. So the Daily Beast is just terrible deep state propaganda. They always try to discredit the what they get told to discredit, and this isn't loading for me right now. But this article is basically trying to claim that the yellow vest movement started as an economic protest. They're trying to use that line as if these yellow vest movements started in France over gas taxes. How ridiculous is that? But this article is trying to claim that it started over an economic protest and that these yellow vests are now moving across Europe, aligning with a bunch of far-right organizations, and even spreading into America and trying to be co-opted by the American QAnon conspiracy movement. Just ridiculous. Ridiculous stuff. Far-right, alt-right, right-wing watch. All of these are their new... there we go. It loads for us. Don't you like the... I love what they photoshopped. They illustrated for the headline of this article. Pepe on a yellow vest. But there we go. The yellow vest is merging with another dysfunctional foreign movement, the U.S.-based QAnon conspiracy theories. So there you have it. Nonsense that they are spouting from the Daily Beast there. And more news out of Europe. This one from Heathrow. So we have another another London airport closed because of a, quote, drone sighting. Remember Gatwick a couple of weeks ago? Gatwick Airport in the UK there. They closed it for quite a while. Thousands of flights delayed or canceled because of those drone sightings. That happened a couple of weeks ago. Now we have Heathrow Airport, bigger airport in London. Departures grounded for about an hour because of drone sightings. It's like the new swamp gas. It's the new weather balloon. drone sightings. Oh, could have been something in the sky, but actually, I think it's more likely that there was probably a person of interest at these airports that might have been trying to skirt the country, trying to leave, that they tried to quarantine at these airports. So some sort of behind-the-scenes stuff is going on at Gatwick and Heathrow with these airport closures over drone sightings, and that's just their public relations excuse. But weird stuff going on at airports. And this is reminiscent to me of what was going on in airports at the end of 2017, the beginning of 2018. When Q first popped on the scene, we had all of those flights getting rerouted. We had all of those odd events happen at airports. Atlanta Airport, some other ones where we just got really weird excuses as to why they had to close terminals or, ground some departures, things like that. So definitely behind the scenes stuff going on, at least in my mind. Moving on, let's talk about GMOs really quickly. GMOs, 5G, and vaccines. So with the trade wars basically going on with China, we have this news coming out of the Wall Street Journal today. China's GMO ruling hands U.S. farmers new tool in battle against weeds. So essentially, DuPont, the corporation DuPont, Big Ag, was waiting for a product of theirs, a GMO soy product, to be approved by Chinese officials so they could begin selling it. Not just selling it in China, but also selling it in America. They were waiting for Chinese approval, basically so they could blast it internationally. And this is very bad news because DuPont, Big Ag, we don't want GMOs. Look at it right here. It says chemical maker, DuPont, chemical maker, right? Your chemical makers are making your food. Monsanto, now bought by Bayer, DuPont, Syngenta. Do we really want that? Chemical maker DuPont is going to begin selling to U.S. farmers a new soybean seed modified to survive a powerful herbicide combination. So what they're saying here is that this food has been genetically messed with, so you can spray as much toxic herbicide on it as you want, and it'll kill the weeds, but it won't kill the crop. But guess what happens to the crop? It sticks. That herbicide sticks. You're going to be eating that if you choose these foods. And not just that, what the heck are they modifying within the genetics of the plant? Can your body even understand the genetic code that you're putting into it? It can't. So this is just bad news. I would like to see this administration go a little bit harder on big ag companies like Monsanto and DuPont. But again, it's a very touchy situation because if that happens, then of course the Trump administration would alienate a large base of theirs in U.S. farmers. So it's a very careful situation, but good news is Monsanto did lose a lawsuit recently. And of course, good news is we have citizen journalists out there. So if power is really returning to we the people, the more we speak up, the more change that we're going to make. So all in due time. All in due time. There's a lot of topics. There's a lot of ideas out there that the Trump administration and Q, the alliance, they have not attacked yet. But of course, it's long-term game we're in. 5G. So a little bit of news on 5G, and this is actually good news. So Verizon and T-Mobile bash AT&T over fake 5G. Because what's essentially happening is AT&T is sort of mismarketing. They're kind of sensationalizing some of their products. AT&T is calling a new marketing term 5G. They have their 4G LTE service, and they're calling a new service 5G, but it's not really 5G. It doesn't use 5G bandwidths. They're just calling it 5G. It's like calling something organic when it's not organic. In essence, calling it GMO when it's not GMO. So AT&T is getting lit up. In a blog post on Monday, a Verizon's chief technology officer basically put AT&T on blast for their mismarketing. But essentially, right here is that we don't have 5G on the market yet. I believe there's a handful of test pilot cities around the country, but it's just a very small area of like 5 or 6 urban centers that's prototyping 5G right now. It's not in the mass market. Okay, I see a lot of fear porn out there about 5G, that it's already out there. It's not. It could be coming. We have corporations that are trying to implement 5G and trying to bring it out to the public, which I definitely disagree with and don't want. But 5G is not mass marketed at this moment. How about vaccines? So I saw this article today in a scientific news outlet. Of course, if you think your news is fake, imagine how bad science is. All types of science. Imagine how bad history is, So anyway, this article says, research explains public resistance to vaccination. And we have a new study coming out of Dartmouth College. Dartmouth College, new study. And it's claiming that we have a lot of people who are averse to vaccinations. We have public resistance to vaccinations. And it's caused by a phenomenon known as hysteresis. If I'm getting that right, hysteresis, creating a negative history that stiffens public resolve against vaccinations. Well, yeah, because there is a bunch of negative history about vaccinations. I mean, how many billions of dollars have been paid out from the vaccine courts to people who have been vaccine injured? Pretty much like 2 or 3 degrees of separation, and you can find somebody who's been vaccine injured or had a direct family member vaccine injured. How many stories do we have of contaminants being found in vaccines, aborted fetal tissue, nanoparticles, mycoplasma, cancer-causing viruses? So yeah, maybe all of this negative history is so negative that people are just waking up. And Dartmouth College here, on behalf of their big pharma sponsors, are of course trying to just brush it under the rug, put some buzzword out there and claim it's this issue. Don't worry about it. It's all in your brains, people, and get your vaccines. It's nonsense. So there you go. Fake science. I'm sure there's some sort of special interest donors there paying for these studies. And you got to understand, when it comes to universities, when it comes to big multi-$100 million per year universities, they will lose their funding. They will lose their grants. They will lose their funding if they don't do the particular studies that these corporations want the universities to do. That's how it works. When it comes to GMOs, when it comes to vaccines, when it comes to climate science, when it comes to Harvard trying to push out their, what were they calling it, solar radiation management studies just a few weeks ago. I mean, when it comes to astrophysics and gravitational physics, I mean, all sorts of different studies, same thing, different area. If they don't go along with the studies, if they don't fudge the statistics in the particular way, they don't get their funding. So it's an unfortunate situation, but that's how it works. Now I want to talk space. So we'll have a few minutes here to discuss the Space Force, discuss UFO disclosure, and discuss some what we could call limited hangout, partial disclosure, psyops we're seeing in play in both the mainstream and the alternative. So first, we'll talk Space Force and the outgoing chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, Representative Mac Thornberry, he's a Republican out of Texas, told reporters on Capitol Hill yesterday that he predicts there's going to be bipartisan support for a new military branch for space, even in a Democratic-led House of Representatives. And this is good news. This is very good news. The Space Force, for the last few weeks, month or two, since the midterms, since we realized that the House was gaining more Democratic control, the Space Force has been something that's sort of questionable. We don't know how much support there is going to be in the Space Force with a new Congress. But good news here that the outgoing House Armed Services Committee chairman is saying there's going to be bipartisan support for it. I hope there is. The Space Force is essential. It's crucial, guys. In a part of the big picture plan, we're going big picture. We're going above 40,000 feet here. Okay, the Space Force is crucial with big picture disclosures, with disclosing ET life, disclosing the technologies that have been reverse engineered from crashed craft, the trillions of dollars, billions and trillions of dollars that have gone to these black projects. What have they developed already? And the sciences, guys, this is a big thing that we'll talk in a second here. The sciences that they've had for 50, 60, 70 years in these black projects, far beyond what we see in the mainstream, okay? It's literally almost like a separate set of physics because what we get in the mainstream is mostly misinformation. So we're talking about sciences and technologies and cosmological understandings that need to be disclosed. They're essential to get disclosed. So the Space Force is a massive way that we're going to be doing that. So I really hope it does get bipartisan support and does get created in 2019 because what we are seeing, and we have to act fast. We have to act fast with the Space Force because what we're seeing is a whole bunch of, like I mentioned, the psychological operations, the psyops, the distractions, the limited hangouts are abounding. They're coming out. One of those is History Channel's new UFO program, Project Blue Book. This is going to be a total whitewash. There's going to be all sorts of fear in this. It's a drama series on the History Channel, but I can already tell there's going to be a bunch of fear embedded into it. It's usually what happens with a Hollywood production in regards to UFOs, ETs, anything non-earthly, as they always try to put a fear component into it, because of course humans are a lot easier to program when we're in a state of fear. So I see fear and I see misinformation that's going to come our way from Project Blue Book. And of course, with this new Project Blue Book show airing on the History Channel, of course it's the History Channel, what do you expect from there? There's going to be a lot of misinformation that comes along in the media reporting with it. What do I mean by that? Well, let's look at this livescience.com article. It's talking about Project Blue Book, but then they have a paragraph near the ending here where they're talking about, let me find it right here, they're talking about the ATIP program that the New York Times disclosed in December of 2017. This ATIP program, as was referenced in the Q drops, they basically said this whole thing's a distraction. That's exactly what it is. When you look at the players involved in disclosing this ATIP program, you have the New York Times, you have Senator Harry Reid, you have John Podesta, you have Robert Bigelow, you got Tom DeLonge with the Freemason symbols all over his guitars. Bunch of questionable names with questionable influences with this ATIP program. But it's getting reported in the mainstream. This is their limited hangout. This is their, we could call it a false flag disclosure. We also get this space.com article. This whole article coming out just this morning here called UFO Legacy, What Impact Will Revelation of Secret Government Program Have? And this is the screenshot from that fake, I would say it's fake, video that the New York Times released. This whole article is talking about that ATIP program. There you go. It was originated by Harry Reid. It says right here, behind the scenes is Robert Bigelow of Bigelow Aerospace, a Harry Reid political donor. Then we have these intelligence officials, Luis Elizondo. Then we have these guys from MUFON and other just sort of mainstream UFO media outlets, news outlets, quote, investigative agencies, non-governmental organizations, we could say, NGOs. So there you go. Here's your limited hangout, partial disclosure, PSYOP distraction in action here in regards to UFOs. They bring out a sliver of truth to distract the public, brush a lot of other crimes along the rug, and then put a bunch of misinformation out there as well. So this is definitely going to begin ramping up in 2019, guys, which is why I'm so adamant about it, and I'll be covering it quite a bit. So pretty lame Project Blue Book we have coming out. Definitely lame ATIP disclosures that weren't even secret. They weren't really even classified by the government. It's as if they were purposefully unclassified so they could purposefully disclose it and leak it as such when they needed to. And next, on the topic of limited hangout disclosures, right? So limited hangouts could come by way of historical information that they're whitewashing, that they are misinforming you about. It could also come by way of technological information that they are misinforming us about. So here we have a couple of articles that came out the past couple of days in mainstream scientific news. This one from Physics World. This looks like a magazine, some sort of website. And this one from phys.org, so two physics news websites. This one says, call made for U.S. to develop its own compact fusion plant. And then this one right here says, scientists discover a process that stabilizes fusion plasmas. Now, what we are seeing, and if you actually go back the past about year, there's been mainstream news articles ran once a month, once every couple months over the past year or two about fusion energy, cold fusion even. Fusion is going to be the next big thing. We're going to see a breakthrough in fusion technologies that's going to give us access to clean, limitless energy sources, clean, limitless electricity. That's what the mainstream is saying. What did I mention about 5 minutes ago? I mentioned that the technologies locked away in these black projects, they've been there for 50, 60, 70 years. We're talking free energy, zero-point energy. Zero-point energy goes hand in hand with electrogravitic, basically levitation. So this sort of stuff, and that's just a piece of it, this sort of stuff has been in these black projects for a long time. T. Townsend Brown was making metal discs levitate back in the 1940s and 50s. Nikola Tesla passed away, he did pass away, but he passed along some of his information to a man named Otis Carr. Otis Carr utilized Tesla's dynamic theories of gravity to make saucers, big saucers, we're talking 40-foot saucers, levitate. Back in the 60s, he was doing it. So all of this suppressed, brought into the black projects. They've developed it out with their billions and trillions of dollars. So the real technologies that they have, they can already create. I mean, we already have limitless electricity sources on this planet. We've had them for decades. So when we see stuff like this coming into the mainstream, scientists discover a process that can stabilize fusion. Call made for U.S. to develop its own compact fusion plant. What they're trying to do is bring out a lot of these, not even a lot, just a fraction of it. They're trying to bring out a fraction of these sciences that have been in these black projects to the public domain so they can, one, capitalize on it, make a buck. We have that new Tesla Tower in Texas, the one owned and operated by Vizzy Technologies, right? They're trying to patent it. So we're seeing a lot of these technologies that have been in secret projects come out into the public domain. They're bringing them out in very careful, subtle ways so they can make money on it, patent it, capitalize on it. They can also distract people. That's the idea of a limited hangout. So people will be like, oh my God, we have this new fusion energy source. And little does the mass public realize that this stuff has actually been suppressed, kept secret. Inventors have been suicided over it. There's just been crimes against humanity go on in regards to this stuff and so much more for a long time. So I could keep ranting on limited hangout disclosures and all that jazz, but you get the gist of it here. We're seeing a lot of it come into the mainstream right now, especially over the last year or two. Because with Q hopping onto the scene, it's like the deep state they're trying to play every card they got right now. They're trying to, strategize in any way they can to distract and false flag us. They're distracting us with Project Blue Book, with ATIP disclosures, with limited hangout technological disclosures in the mainstream. Also, they're distracting us with a bunch of fakers on YouTube and Twitter and, just all sorts of different alternative media psyop accounts, we could basically call it. Plenty of those on YouTube, Twitter. In the ufology realm, there's all sorts of controlled opposition plants everywhere. It's disheartening on one hand because you see these people that you once loved and you thought they were great individuals because, they're claiming they want disclosure and the ending of secrecy and they want transparency, but then you realize that they're not transparent individuals at all and disinforming with their research. So, yeah, no false idols, guys. A lot of these folks that we see in the alternative media and the conspiracy realm and the truth-seeking realm, they ain't really into it for the greater good. They're just into it for their own selfish ego reasons, whatever that is. No names, though. No names, at least for now. But anyway, that's it for this one, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for following along. Appreciate all of you guys. Appreciate your support. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Click that little notification bell. I think Twitter and YouTube and all these platforms, unfollows people, unsubscribes people from time to time. So make sure you're always got those checked. And